Want to start with TCDC?
Sure. Okay, it looks like we are up live. Let me just find everybody. There we go.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. This is the October 13th meeting of the IDA and the Tompkins County Development Corporation. I am Martha Robertson, the vice chair. Rich John had a conflict, so I am stepping in. So I thought we would start with the Development Corporation. So I would call that to order. Is there any privilege of the floor? Do we have any public comments?
We did not receive any public comments for the Development Corporation.
All right, any additions to the agenda?
No,
This is so easy.
I aim to please.
All right, so we have our draft budget. And I know we are required to put this out there and then we have some time before we approve it. So Heather, you want to talk about this a little bit?
This is pretty straightforward. The Development Corporation provides access to the tax exempt bond market for not-for-profit projects. So you'll see what our approved budget, what our year end is projected to be. We did issue the bond part 1 of 2 for Kendall this year that, was not on our agenda until after the first of the year. So that's where we should end up. And then we're projecting fees next year for phase 2 of the Kendall bond. And that was just a refinance that we approved earlier this year. So that's where our draft budget is for the Development Corporation. We do need to approve these and have them go up into Paris, the state's reporting system, by November 1st. Correct.
Okay. Are there any questions? I'm curious, I'm looking at on the green box, the top line is 237,981 and the bottom line is 237,981. How is that? How are they the same number? They
Could be my.
Oh, there's a typo there. And yep, everything else looks fine. Except for probably the year end was probably supposed to be 287.
So when I go to the top of the yellow box, 287, 378, I didn't actually take time to do the math.
Another.
So maybe I could speak to that if that's okay. When it was approved in October of 2020, that was the projected starting balance. And some of the ones were after, I don't know.
Right, we got the 20,000 and 30,000 after that point.
But for 2021, that's the actual starting balance in terms of, when you look at the bank statement, the 287.37. So.
Okay, so we'll just correct that.
The approved, I think you had a starting balance of 237,981, add the interest minus the expenses, it should have been 158,231.
158, 230.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then something may have happened in between. Our starting balance was actually 287, 378. That may have been Ithaca College's bond refi, which wouldn't have been in our approved budget.
And that,
But income for that. That's what the difference there between the 158 and the 287 at the top of the 2021 budget year.
do we need to show something though that gets you from 158 to 287?
Actually, what's going to go into the Paris report will just be the 2022 draft budget.
Got it. And that's such a complicated set of numbers.
So I can make these corrections
Okay.
and I can put the interim, what we actually received in 2020 so that all of you can see it and I can send that back out.
Okay, do you want a motion on this or you want to, okay. Can I get a motion to approve the 2022 draft budget? Laura moves, seconded by Jeff. Is that your hand up? Okay, great. All in favor, please raise your hand. And Mike Sigler, can you shout out? Mike Sigler?
He's muted.
Mike Sigler is muted. we can't fix that, Mike. Can you hear us? Let's call it an abstention and the budget passes 3-0-1. All right. Is that okay? I mean, that's not
Yep.
4, but okay. All right. We have the minutes from August 11th. Can I get a motion on those? Jeff moves and Laura,
Ask a second.
did you second the minutes? We need a second for the minutes.
Can I second the minutes if I was not at the meeting?
Yes,
Oh,
I
yeah.
will second the minutes.
yes, okay, thank you. Any questions? I do have a question about, well, it's about the comment, but not the content, but not the minutes. It's about the TG Miller contract for water and sewer. If the contract is canceled at the end of 2021, will we get any kind of partial results? Will we get any information from them?
Well, my hope, of course, is that we will not cancel the contract and that they will be complete. But my understanding is that significant work has been done and it is nearly drafted. Like all the comments have been received, all the interviews with all the water and sewer providers have been done.
Okay,
So there will be data that we own.
okay, that's excellent. All right, we're ready to vote. Laura?
So can I ask, the contract in these minutes says contract will be canceled at the end of 2021. Am I understanding that the contract will be completed at the end of 2021? Is that what you just said?
The contract period was that this project was supposed to be completed in 2020. And with COVID, things got shifted and, TG Miller does great work. We just have not been able to get them to complete the project, even with, constant prodding and requests to help them. And so we have taken the tact that if they are not completed by the end of the year, we will be terminating the contract.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. I didn't have the benefit of the discussion at last month's meeting or 2 months ago, whatever month it was, August.
And does that mean not paying them?
Not paying them the remainder of the contract, yes.
Let's hope we get that.
The contract was based on milestones, so they have been paid for the milestones that they have completed.
Okay, great. Thank you. Did I see a chat? Was that from Rick Snyder? Just welcome back or something. Okay, all right. Vote on the minutes then. Laura, Jeff, and Mike Sigler. All in favor of the minutes? Mike, you're saying, you're asking, I think you can unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. All in favor of the minutes then?
I did. I'm here.
Okay, all right. The minutes are passed unanimously. Thank you very much. I think
Aye.
that does it. Okay, I think that does it for TCDC. So we'll adjourn TCDC and open the October 13th meeting of the Tompkins County Industrial Development Agency. So again, any public comments? I think Laura, you wanted to make a comment here? For the IDA, do you have public comment from Teresa Alt?
Yes, thank you. Teresa sent me an email, Teresa Alt. I've been trying to follow the TCIDA Housing Committee, but it seems not to have met since August 4th. And I don't see any meetings scheduled. Ina Arthur explained to me how the agent's agendas and minutes are to be found at the bottom of the agendas and minutes for the full IDA, but I keep visiting there and finding nothing new. I thought the committee still had to re-examine the, in parens, inadequate in lieu fee for opting out of providing affordable housing in supported projects. That very low fee has been in place for well over a year now. What's happening, asks Teresa.
Thank you for sharing Teresa's comments, Laura. And we were talking before this meeting and Heather said it's, on her to-do list to set up a committee meeting. Heather's been traveling, speaking at an international conference and has been on jury duty. So there's some things that couldn't quite get scheduled. We will get on that. I know she's it's good to have a loyal fan in Teresa Ault. So, and welcome, go ahead.
Yes, and I would say that one of the things that needs to happen is a discussion with the admin team in the county's planning department on the Community Housing Development Fund. They've been working to try and identify what its subsidy cost really is to support different types of affordable housing, whether there are low-income housing tax credit, the 9%, the 4% tax credits, or the other projects. So, that conversation needs to happen as well to inform whether we need to change that in lieu payment amount.
Thanks, Heather.
And funny thing, I'm on that subcommittee too. So, there's a lot going on, but, right now we're in the middle of county budget season, so a lot of things get put to the side, but we will get to it soon.
And city.
And city, of course. Welcome, John. Glad you are here. Sorry, there was a mix-up about the location. Heather, are there any additions to the agenda?
I would just ask maybe that we could move the other items first, and then we could go into executive session to discuss Arrowhead, if you're amenable to that.
That's fine with me. Russ, is that kosher? Is Arrowhead qualify under executive session?
Yeah, absolutely, under the potential of litigation.
Okay, all right. That sounds fine. All right, well then let's go first to the budget, draft budget. Next page. Heather, you want to walk us through this a little bit?
Sure. So we have our approved budget for 2021 and our projected year end based on the number of projects that we've seen and fees that have been paid on projects that closed this year. So we see a drafted budget for next year with a starting balance of 2.6 million, projected fees that we know will be paid in 2022, and then other expenses with a projected ending balance next year of 2.8 million.
Okay, everybody just sit for a minute on that. 2.8 million. I just want to say, I talked about this briefly with Heather before, and that just represents a vast amount of work by Heather and her whole team. And, we all worried that things would just shut down with COVID. We should have such a shutdown every year. So this is really a wonderful testament to the vibrancy, to the importance of the city of Ithaca, especially as a place for good things to happen, but the whole county, but we know a lot about that's the city. I would point out that the IDA, the Tompkins County government has an agreement with the IDA to report to the relevant committee at the county whenever the fund balance for the IDA goes over 600,000. So Heather, not necessarily that it has to be spent, but there has to be a conversation about the funding, what the status is and what the plans are for that kind of fund balance. So Heather and we talked about her coming to the Housing and Economic Development Committee meeting in October to talk about that. So any questions or comments on this?
Yeah, so I think just similar to the other one, TCDC there, Ina, can you take a look at your starting balances for the approved budget and then the projected year end starting balance as well? They're kind of off a little bit from that perspective.
Yes, and that has to do with when we approved the draft for 2021. That's what we thought we would end up with. But when we actually started the year, when we looked at the bank statement, the 664 is an actual number. That's why it's different. It doesn't automatically flow.
Got it. Sorry.
But I can double check that. That's not a problem for sure. But yes, I'll double check that.
Thanks, Jeff. John.
I'm wondering if the 2.5 million in fees, those don't include the payments to the Community Housing Development Fund, correct?
That's correct.
And do those payments actually flow through the IDA, or does the the project make a payment directly to the Housing Development Fund?
The projects will be making a payment directly to the Housing Development Fund. The first one will be McKinley, which is getting ready to close in November. That's the project in my parking lot at 401 East State Street. About $1.6 million will be paid directly to that fund upon closing. And then the other two, the Ithacan and the Ironworks building, will pay at the end of the first year of operation, second year of operation, and third year of operation. So we'll see those payments cut into thirds over 2023, 24, and 25.
So I don't know if this is the right place to look at this, but one of the things that I would really like to see, with some regularity is some kind of a report on the projected and then actual payments into that, just like a budget. I think it'd be helpful to put, maybe on this as like an, inflow and outflow, but that's not really accurate budgeting if we're not actually touching the money. So probably there's another way to do it, but it'd be helpful if that was something that was put in front of us with some regularity.
We could do that quarterly when we present the budget. We just got it on a separate spreadsheet so that we're tracking that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I don't think it should go on our budget if we're not actually touching the money, but definitely having some regular report on that would be very helpful. I think that's something that's a big priority for us. So just to keep an eye on projected and actual would be helpful.
I think that's a great idea, John. And I'm sure it would help on the recipient side as well. Jeff?
Yeah, so Heather, I'm assuming this is still a draft budget, and are you asking for input from the committee members?
If you want to provide input, if you want us to modify it for that, so reporting it into Paris by November 1st, we're happy to do that. And then
the only thing
after that, we can always come back and modify the budget as well.
Yeah, the only thing I would raise given that the projected ending balance of 2.8 million, should we consider another type of COVID grant? Specifically, obviously targeting childcare, because certainly they are not out of the woods yet. Those type of organizations, and I think we had a lot of success doing those grants in 2021. So does it make sense for us to consider additional grants in 2022?
My recollection is that the state government allowed us a one-time opportunity to make grants of $10,000 and below as a result of COVID, and the authority to do that expires at the end of this year.
No.
If it should be extended or I find out otherwise, I will definitely put that on my list to come back to. That is a good idea. I'm sure there's definitely organizations that could benefit from additional grant funds.
Well, maybe we should, this raises the thought that this body should talk about what the plan is for that balance before you go to the legislature. The timing would work. No, you have a legislature meeting on October 28th.
We generally, what we do is after the audit happens, which happens February, March, and we have a final ending balance, we minus out expenses for that are in the budget for the following year, and then report that balance to the planning committee of the legislature. So if there's, and I'm anticipating that balance is going to be high, the IDA will need to start talking about. I will not go to the legislature and say, this is what we're planning to do with the money, without, this body saying, this is what we'd like to do with it. So there will be those conversations, but those could start in November, but there isn't such a time crunch on that.
I think it's worth starting that in November. And describe some of the things you're thinking about. People can, comment, and it can be iterative so that the body has some influence along the way.
Okay.
So that'd be great. John?
You're muted, John.
Yes, thank you. Sorry about that. On that front, I also do think that would be helpful for us to start the conversation sooner rather than later. And my recollection is that there's a relatively limited set of things that we're actually authorized to do as an IDA. So perhaps it would be helpful to just have something come them out to us by email. That's just sort of like, here's the landscape of what, we're actually authorized under law to do. And then we can start, looking at that from that perspective rather than, us coming back with a bunch of really fun harebrained schemes that, then Russ and Heather have to tell us are impossible. As much fun as that conversation would be.
Yeah, I would say Rich John happens to be one of those people who likes to come up with those kind of ideas. So good idea for us. Russ can lay us out a roadmap a little bit on that. That sound okay, Russ?
Hey, I'm happy to do that. That's easy enough for us to do quickly.
That sounds great. All right. I mean, I think.
I'll put
I think we should-
together, what I'll do, John and Martha and the group on the Zoom call, we'll put together a memo, if that's your preference, so you can kind of see it in writing and bullet point it, and then you can react to it, and then we can noodle with it and you can ask questions.
That'd be perfect.
Yeah, I think that sounds perfect. Thank you very much, Russ.
That'd be
Sure.
great. And we'll book some time on the agenda to make sure we have time to discuss. That sounds great. So we need a motion to accept it. If there's nothing else, a motion to accept the draft budget.
So moved.
Moved by Jeff, seconded by John. All in favor? Hands. That's unanimous. All right. Thank you very much. So let's see, we will skip the Arrowhead discussion. Chair's report.
None.
None. Rich isn't here. That's the report. Heather, staff report.
You may have seen the press. There was a groundbreaking ceremony for the Asteri project. It got some good local and statewide press. The governor's office put out some press about that as well. That's our downtown conference center parking and affordable housing project. I happened to run into the governor in Saranac Lake the following day. She walked right up to me and knew who I was, and I think it's because she had seen the press release. So that was really cool. I felt like a rock star. And my friends thought I was a rock star too. So, that was
That's
really
great.
cool.
You are, Heather.
The McKinley project, I think I mentioned, we're teeing up to close late October, early November. The project has been reduced in size a little bit due to some planning board requirements. So I have let the applicant know that they will need to submit to me, what the changes are from anything that was in the application. Everything has gone down, but we'll also need I'll need to have a new project budget, new 5-year pro forma. They still meet all the qualifications. The incentive levels, if anything, have gone down. They have definitely gone up, not gone up. The IDA will not need to approve additional incentive. So I will have all of that for the file and documented that they still meet the financial need and all of that. But we should be on track to close again late October, early November. The fees on that project are almost $1 million. So that, really accounts for the big increase in our fund balance.
Heather, this is Russ. Just real quickly on that, just sorry to interrupt you. We actually have a call with him at 5:00 tonight.
Okay.
The plan, barring any unforeseen circumstances, is to close that October 29th. So I'll obviously keep you advised.
Okay.
John.
I know we had some discussion about what constitutes a material change with regards to other projects that were before us at the time. It seems to me if there's going to be a different number of housing units that's substantially different, we probably should just at least vote to approve a change or whatever, because it's now it's not the same shape of project that we approved. I mean, I think that we could probably just do that right now so that it's well documented that we all accepted the change, right?
The units have gone down from 353 to 321.
I guess,
Honestly,
I mean,
Yeah, John,
I don't know if that constitutes significant or not.
Well, I think that's a good idea. We might as well have the board memorialize that there's been a change in the general scope of the project that is frankly immaterial since you're aware of it. Now, if they were going from 352 to 400, it may be a little bit of a different legal analysis as to what we have to do. But since they're downscaling a little bit, I'm comfortable with just the board acknowledging that they've been advised of these changes and approve them.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess I'll make a motion to approve that or to acknowledge that and approve that. Is that?
Sure. Is there a second? Laura seconds. Discussion? Yeah, in my mind, when we've talked about changes, for example, at Herald Square, there's been much more of a change of function within the building. This is just kind of shrinking lopping one floor off the top of it. It's sort of,
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
and my benchmark has been about 10%. So the drop in units is a little bit less than 10%.
Yeah, that's probably a good line for us to use in general. Martha, I will say that, I think that with our tight housing market, if we voted for an incentive for a project and it got smaller, that's meaningful to us, right?
yeah.
It's less positive impact to the community. So, I mean, I would like to see us vote on that. I don't see any problem with this one. I mean, obviously they ran into what they did with the planning board. We don't have any control over that. They would have built it as they said they would if they could have.
Right. I think it's good precedent, though. You're right, to bring up a change like this and have us vote on it. So any other discussion, Laura?
No, I completely agree with that. And I think it is good precedent to set because there were questions, I had questions around the Herald Square changes as well. So I think this is a good procedure to have in place. Thank you.
All right, let's vote on John's motion. All in favor to accept the changes?
I just need to abstain on this one.
Okay. Mike Sigler, are you in favor of the, okay, accepting the change? So that's 4-1. 4-1, 4-0-1 on abstaining. So, all right. Thank you very much for that. Anything else on your report, Heather?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, we have minutes from the Labor Committee, which we don't, as a reminder, we don't approve those. These are informational. Any questions on the Labor Committee minutes? All right, then we have the minutes of the IDA meeting, July 14th.
And I will just note that they were in your packet twice on page 16 to 19, smashed in the middle of the Arrowhead documents. They're also in the back of the agenda packet. They should be in the back. And I will note that the minutes say July 14. They're actually the minutes from the August 11th meeting. So we will be making that one change.
I looked at that, said July 14th doesn't sound right.
You
Okay.
guys are keeping us on our toes. Thanks, Laura, for bringing that to our attention.
All right. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes of August 11th? Moved by Laura, seconded by Mike. Any other comments or questions? All right, we'll vote on the minutes. All in favor with that one change? That's unanimous. All right, thank you so much. Then we're ready. Can I get a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing possible litigation? Moved by John Guthridge, seconded by Laura. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. So we are headed into executive and we'll wait a minute while you shut the camera down.